Okay, hello everyone. This is Davies from Weights and Biases. I am joined by Saahil Jain from You.com. Sahil, thank you so much for jumping on this very quick and impromptu chat. Just to go over something that You.com, I saw the announcement from You.com, I believe from December 23rd, and got super excited to talk to you as soon as I saw it. There's a lot of, I'm just going to dive right in. There's a lot of hype around ChatGPT. Everybody's been talking about it. Microsoft, are they going to implement it? All this, that, and the other thing. And then I saw that You.com actually had already integrated a ChatGPT-like system into your guys' search engine. And then, of course, I had to use it, and I had to try it out and compare it to say ChatGPT. What I guess let's start at the beginning. Was this something like that's really fast after this ChatGPT hype? So was this something that you guys were working on already? But before all this hype? I'm guessing you had to have been. And how long have you guys been working on something like this?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it. And thanks for using UChat and U.com in general. We definitely, have enjoyed building this. And that's a great question. So essentially, we've been actively integrating generative AI for around a year now, starting with YouWrite as of March last year.
Hmm.
So we've definitely had generative AI on our radar for a while. And I think a lot of the ideas and things we had built along those lines were kind of a precursor to UChat and in general having a chat GPT like interface. So as a search engine, we've always kind of strived to be at the very frontier of integrating generative AI into our SERP. So it's maybe something that we kind of rapidly incorporated, but it was definitely something we've been thinking about for at least a while.
Something I have to ask, and I'm gonna give you a chance to promote yourself because there's no other way to word this. And it's a question that I think needs to be asked: is why would I use UChat and not just go straight to Chat GPT? Like, what's the difference between these two things?
Yeah. That's a great question. And ChatGPT came out, and it's kind of changed a lot of things, and it's actually changed and raised a lot of questions about search. But in general, there's kind of a couple of reasons that you know we think about when we developed UChat and are to continue to improve it. So I think one reason is that a user can access the results of a ChatGPT-like system in the context of your search engine. So essentially, we want to allow you to get the best of the advances in generative AI as well as the advances in search and information retrieval. So users can quickly benefit by viewing web links and U.com apps to trust information to verify and augment the generated content they see from their chatbot and chat-like interface. So that's kind of one reason. So ChatGPT-like system in the context of search has unique benefits. The second one is more grounding. So based on web results, we can kind of ground our system a little bit more. We can say more up to date. We can do things like provide citations. So if you ask UChat a question such as who won the World Cup, we'd be able to kind of take into account recent information. Whereas with the ChatGPT, you would be limited by the amount of data that they had trained on. And then I think lastly, we kind of work so that anybody can actually easily access it. So we've worked a lot on our UI and accessibility across countries, especially where folks can't use ChatGPT, but they can use that.
Right. Well, that's very interesting. And you bring up one of the I guess to me, more interesting points when I'm watching people use it who might not understand what they're using in a chat GPT world. And it was one of the things that really struck me when I was using UChat, was the access to basically newer information, right? Like when you're using chat GPT, you're using an old set of information, just fundamentally you are. You're using the last bit of information that it was trained on. That's what you're using. Whereas UChat, I don't know how you're doing it, but I'm going to have you on like a show where we'll dive into how you're pulling that off and what's involved in like computing and stuff like that. We'll get into that at another time. But right now, one of the questions that I want to make sure that I dive into, because I think it's a question that a lot of people have in their minds when it comes to generative AI like this. And you guys covered on your site when I look at UChat, it has basically like a disclaimer, like a warning on it. That basically goes, you're not liable for the content generated. Good, like everybody should understand that this is AI building this content. It is not, and it's a good model. But one of the questions that sparks for me is right now, like as of today, whether it's YouChat, whether it's ChatGPT, whatever you might be using, um, it can't be trusted 100%. Like if you have a health problem, you shouldn't enter in, please diagnose this and then trust whatever's generated from it. Do you think, or how long do you think it is into the future that YouChat would be able to pull that disclaimer? Or is there even a day in the future that you can see, and I obviously won't hold you to it because this is just future thinking, but I have you on, so I have to ask, is will there come a time where we'll be able to go, you've got access, through use systems to the world of information, you're trained on it on the fly, we can trust you to give good information, or we have a way of citing this in the chat properly where you understand that it's Mayo Clinic versus some affiliate site, right? Or something like that, where like the source of this is being generated from. Will there come a time, and how far are we away from that time? Just if you were guessing, or what are you guys doing to sort of help bridge that gap and get us to a point where we have that kind of reliability where we don't need a big disclaimer on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's also a very tough question. I mean, it depends a little bit on, a lot of advances and improvements that we're making along the way. But I think the answer, and I guess this is kind of an annoying answer, but it probably depends on the context and the use cases, as well as the user expectations of the tool. So I think in some areas we're already there, but in some areas we're still very far off. So in general, like I guess when you talk about a disclaimer, I think maybe I'll just start off with thinking about the different use cases. So I kind of see maybe, and there's many use cases, but if we kind of think about 3 different groups of use cases, we can kind of see that the need for a disclaimer might be different. So I think in one use case, people often use it for creative outputs. So this would be in the case of, not necessarily chat, but like developing images, writing poetry, brainstorming ideas. In these areas, I think we're already in a state where, you may not need disclaimers. So I think it's important to think about the use case. I think a second kind of bucket might be low to medium stakes information gathering. So I think right now we still like, show a disclaimer. And there's probably going to be a couple advances necessary here. But I think the main point here is that because we're a search engine and we have a retrieval-based approach, we're kind of more likely to be able to reduce the possibility of users having to need the disclaimer by kind of grounding our chat in kind of, live information, as well as, information that we've retrieved. And then I think the last bucket might be, taking high stakes action. So for example, providing medical advice or legal advice. My sense is that disclaimers will continue to be very important for the foreseeable future in that domain. And then I think another,
Right.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying another dimension to kind of maybe think about this question might be around user expectations. So disclaimers are necessary when user expectations aren't clear. But I think what's going to happen is, users are going to better understand how to leverage generative AI and kind of a chatbot like interface, which will kind of become part of their habits. And as that happens, I think it'll become clearer, and a disclaimer will be less necessary, even if the tool is not perfect.
Right. You'll be understanding that it's the same as if you were asking me, right? Like you have to understand that I don't know everything. And so if you're asking me for health advice, you have to understand that I'm a marketer and this is the level of information you're about to get. Whereas, the generative modeling would be based on everything that you.com is collecting, right? So it's how much do you understand you.com? And that puts a very, very interesting set of projects that you must have being worked on, where you have sort of what I would refer to as like your money or your life type, queries and sort of expectations, where it's like, this is critical. This is health and finance, right? Like if we get this wrong, that's, and you were alluding to those, that's very damaging, as opposed to like, make me a haiku about X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, go ahead, be wrong. It's fun. We've all played with like Dolly or Dolly Mini or whatever and just gone, let's see how like nightmare fuelish this is. But we understand that it's, it doesn't matter at the end of the day what it ends up being. So it must be a very, very big challenge for you.com. So you know what? Well, I'll save what is the approach you take to that until we have kind of like, like I'm going to grab you on one of these episodes and we're going to like sort of like really dive into that sort of area of things. But before we go, one of the questions I really want to know the answer to, so I'll take this opportunity, is what's you.com working on now? Like, you just announced that. Clearly you have like a roadmap to like, here's the next thing for what you can tell us. Like, obviously, you're not going to go, here's all the cards, let's lay them on the table. But like, is there something that we should be keeping our eyes open for, we in marketing, or just people who are really interested in like you guys and what you're doing to sort of push the boundaries of AI and ML in search? And you guys sort of beat a lot of companies to the punch here on this one. And you're hitting the ground running because you have the advantage of doing first, or way ahead of a lot of people. What's sort of like next that we should be looking for to go, here's a new thing, here's why we should go to you.com now to watch what they're doing with YouChat here, or here over the coming months?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I think there's probably a couple different kind of dimensions of work that we're doing. So I think one, kind of going to our values of, trust, facts, and kindness. We're going to continue working on improving the, trustworthiness of YouChat results. So there's definitely a lot of research we have to do there. Like, as you mentioned, the topic of disclaimers. For now, we have a disclaimer, and we believe that we want to promote very responsible use of YouChat. So we're going to continue looking into ways of grounding it, improving the results, citing it, etc., so that users can really trust YouChat in ways that they have not been able to trust chatbots in the past. And then I think kind of another thing that we'll kind of broadly do is really think about how to integrate YouChat into search more kind of cohesively. So on you.com right now, we have kind of a rich interface, with a lot of these concepts of you.com apps. So we're definitely going to think a little bit about how to, integrate these two types of things and really kind of push the boundaries of what a chatbot can do. I can't go too much into the details, but definitely stay tuned. I would just say to keep watching YouChat. We have a lot of people, on our team working on it, and it's really a collective effort. So just keep an eye out, stay tuned, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of exciting advancements coming out soon.
Okay, well, and then that leads just so wonderfully to the last question that I have for you here today, which is, as you know, I'm launching a full sort of podcast on ML and search. I would love to pull you on again in a couple months and diving into some of the stuff that you've learned from having YouChat running for a couple months at that point, and some updates on what you guys are doing. So would it be okay for me to drag you on again and dive a little further into how this thing is progressing?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again in a couple months then.
Great. Thanks, Dave.